Ryan, how much does last year's win give you confidence going into this? Or, last year you were about 10 points ahead of the cutoff and there wasn't a change in tires. So maybe there isn't much to take from last year.
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like you're constantly learning, race to race at that track and short tracks and stuff like that. And taking what we learned, from this tire from Wilkesboro and Richmond, maybe you apply just little things here and there. But yeah, I mean, we built off of, you know, the November race last year, or yeah, it was November. The fall race last year to the spring race this year, and then we've built off of kind of both of those for this race, and then what we've also learned from this tire and at other short tracks. So you're always kind of just building. I don't think you can't just unload with the same stuff you were successful with there in the past. No matter even if it was the same tire, I feel like we'd always change some stuff up just because it can be a little different. You learn things through the year that might help you. So little pieces, and you just hope you hit it right.
Hey Ryan, want to go back to last year's race again. What were some of the keys to you being so good in that fall Martinsville race last year, and winning? And how do you think those keys might be different this Sunday?
Yeah, I feel like what made us really good last year at that race was we didn't have great like qualifying speed. We didn't qualify very good, but our race pace was really solid. And especially after 20 or so laps, I feel like I could uh, move around where I needed to after like 50 laps. But my strong suit was just kind of running where I needed to, kind of low and out of the rubber, but also being able to move around. Like I passed a handful of guys on the top of the racetrack when they got stoved up in lap traffic or at rubber down on the bottom. I could be pretty versatile. So I think that versatility in our car really helped out. Kind of racing the 11, who was really good there the whole race. Kind of seeing where our strengths were. Compared to his and just being able to kind of move around with our car where I feel like some guys were maybe a little bit more locked into their lane that they were running. I had the ability to kind of move around and that helped me a lot in traffic and things like that. So that's something I hope we have again. The tire is going to be interesting. It's nice to have a longer practice on Saturday. Hopefully the track kind of gets rubbered into where the race is going to be as far as the rubber goes and kind of what it does. Does it lay down? Does it kind of snake up a little bit to where you're going to have to be below it or above it? I feel like you're going to be able to make both lanes work, and it just depends on how you adjust your car and your driving style to make both lanes work. But yeah, that versatility I feel like was a huge advantage for us.
And then obviously I know you're focused on this weekend and getting to Phoenix, but you know, if you were to get there, what did you learn last year and kind of the week of preparation and kind of handling that pressure as far as a championship race goes for the first time?
Like you said initially, I'm just focused on Martinsville. We'll figure out Phoenix if it happens for us. But like 100% of the focus is Martinsville and how do we perform Sunday to try to win the race and get there, and then we'll deal with Phoenix after that. But yeah, I haven't put any thought into Phoenix just because the next task is Martinsville.
Hey, Ryan, I'm curious. I want to ask you from the spring race. Both you and Joey at different times in the race had to go with two tire strategies for track position. And I remember like in the second stage for Joey, he led most of the stage and then finished fifth when the tires kind of wore down, and it kind of helped get you back into position. You dropped a few spots. Can you talk to me about the challenges of what that was like with two tires? And then I know there's the uncertainty about what this tire is going to be like at this track, but what that might do in terms of the two tire strategy, because it certainly helped you gain track position after the having to come down pit road a second time.
Yeah, it was a good call that Jonathan made in the spring after we lost some track position after, like I said, we had to come down pit road again. And I kind of got stuck, in the teens or wherever we were, low teens. And the two tire strategy was good just because we didn't see a ton of fall off in the spring. Um, and I don't know. I mean, we've talked about all these different scenarios this week, and it's just a lot of unknown what the tire is going to be like. How much is that fall off? And those decisions you just kind of make a little bit after practice, but also through the race. How does it rubber down? Can you go anywhere? Like if you're mired back in those positions, like do you feel like you can move forward? If not, maybe you do throw kind of the two tire strategy at it. But a lot of that is just tire fall off. Like if they fall off a cliff, then maybe that'd be like a big home run move. Kind of a Hail Mary if you want to put two tires on it. It just depends where you're running. So yeah, it's just one of those tough decisions that crew chiefs have to make and drivers kind of have to assess of how competitive you think you are or how much you think tires are worth and where you're running at the time. And that's why, crew chiefs get paid the big bucks to make those decisions. And I can just give them all the feedback that I can on that. But Jonathan does a great job of trying to understand, what we need to do at the time and kind of how I react to where we're running of I'm kind of just stuck. I feel like I'm good. Like in the spring, I felt like I was pretty good. I just got stuck where I was running and couldn't pass anybody. So he's like, all right, well, let's just throw two and see what it does. And we were able to hold on and that set us up for the end of the race. So those are kind of live decision makings that you have to decide on. And he chose right on that one. And you never know for this weekend what people are going to come up with.
Hey Ryan, that's the long form answer of this isn't easy.
Shit's hard, man. It's hard.
uh, Looking ahead to this weekend, and please, I ask, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously the car setup is right. It's got to be right. The car's got to be good for you. But is this a cutoff race at Martinsville that is probably maybe perhaps the best test for the driver? Because I mean, it's a short track. It's not really a wild card race in the way of maybe Talladega or the Roval.
Yeah, I think it's great when they I forget what year they made a handful of years ago they made Martinsville the final race of the round of eight. It used to be the first one. And I feel like it's the perfect final race for this round. Just because it's a grueling 500 laps around that place. It's really tough to mentally and like the physical side of it to like you're worn out after this thing and so I think it's a perfect race for it. It always puts on a good show. You're going to have contact, through the race between a lot of drivers just because the place is so tight and you're going to have people be aggressive. And then with uh, the kind of the hype of that race of it being your last shot for six other guys to get in, you're going to have a lot of intense moments. And I feel like that's what it should be. That's what the playoffs are for, of having these really hard races and a place like Martinsville being the last one, the last shot for, six guys to do it and have a shot at a championship. It's the perfect scenario. So I love Martinsville. I loved it ever since I was a kid. I went there a lot watching my dad race. It's one of my favorite racetracks, and just to compete there is a pleasure. So I look forward to that. I think people look forward to that pressure of how well you can run at this really hard racetrack, and hopefully we can accept that pressure and rise to the occasion. So,
And you mentioned the word pressure. I mean, you responded to it a year ago. What does that feel like for a guy that even last year you were in a better position than you are this year going into Martins?
yeah, I mean, there's pressure in everything. There's pressure in everyday life. How you're gonna live, and there's pressure in your profession, and and I feel like if anyone asks you in certain moments that they don't feel any pressure when it comes down to this, I think they're not telling you the whole truth because everyone feels it. This is your livelihood, and this is what you love to do. There's a lot of people counting on you that work for you and work for your race team and things like that expect you to perform. And it's how do you handle it, right? How do you like accept all the pressure that is given? How do you kind of rise above it and how do you like enjoy pressure? Like I feel like you have to enjoy that because it's a privilege that you get to feel that pressure, right? Like guys who aren't in the playoffs right now, they don't feel that pressure to run well here. Well, I don't not to not run well here, but like your championship hopes are not there anymore if you're not in the eight. And like, so these guys, all six of us who aren't locked in, they're feeling pressure, right? And it's just with everything. So it's just how do you and your team, approach the weekend, understanding that it's there and really not let it get to you too much. And how do you kind of use that pressure that kind of can motivate you internally to where like I want to be, the team and the guy that overcame all that pressure and succeeded. And hopefully, like I think we have that mentality like we did last year. I mean, there was pressure going into Martinsville last year of, yeah, we were in a better spot on points, but there's pressure of, oh, are we going to throw away these points that we got and not make it there? And so I think it's the same kind of, situation, honestly, as last year.
So you guys kind of teed up my question perfectly, which I appreciate. But one of the things about Martinsville, Christopher Bell said you can't fake it here, which with you having the best average finish of 8.8, obviously you're not faking it. So I was curious, what is that secret behind it? Is it, embracing the mental aspects, the suck of just the grueling 500 laps, or is it something kind of with the corners that you figured out?
Yeah, Martinsville was used to be a place kind of up until the fall of 2017 that I really struggled at. I just couldn't really figure it out and just could never get like the timing as a driver that I needed to for there. And then just like that fall 17 race with the Wood brothers, like it just kind of clicked. And it's like, okay, we ran pretty good here. I think I kind of know now of what I need to be competitive here. And that's just gotten better year in and year out. And it's funny when things like click at a racetrack where you maybe don't run great at. Like, oh, okay, this is kind of how I need to feel and how I need to approach it and how I need to drive it. And ever since then, I feel like we've done a good job. And as a driver, I feel like I have a decent understanding of what I need through practice and then the race to be good there. And it's just kind of how you want your car to drive. It's how you drive, the racetrack and how you adjust as the track changes. The track changes a ton through the race and, through a single run with the concrete corners where it kind of gets darker and rubbers down. And I feel like it's just kind of clicked. So yeah, it's one of those places I love going to. We always seem to bring some good stuff, and hopefully that continues. But yeah, I really enjoy that place, and it was tough. It was a tough few years before that in trucks and my early years of cup racing. But once I kind of just understood, you're like, oh, okay, that's I don't know why I didn't think of this before, and you hope that you continue to evolve your skills to kind of adjust for the new tire or a different car or things like that or situations. So yeah, it's been a pretty solid place for us. So hopefully that continues.
Hey, you mentioned just going there as a kid, and you've talked about it in the past, but I'm curious, what made that place so memorable? Because in the sense of, I don't think your dad had the best success there. So from a kid's point of view, if your dad's not running as well, what makes that so good, or what are the memories as a kid that make Martinsville so good for you?
Um, I think multiple things. Like I grew up, in High Point, so like 45 minutes away from there. So we went there a lot when I was younger. It was a place like we would always go to, twice a year as a family, just because it was easy to get to and you drive to it. And I just thought the racetrack was incredibly neat. Like, and it reminded me of, it's a really small short track and it reminded me, like, oh, okay, I can kind of relate to this because I'm running, legend cars and Bandoleros and even started my late model career, like, okay, I can kind of relate to this short track style of racing. And I just loved how the cars were so close together. Like, and you could see everything as a kid. We go sit in the stands and you could watch the whole racetrack. And, guys, there was always something going on, no matter where you looked. And I liked that as a kid. I enjoyed the noise of it as a kid, and the smells that were right there. And then I remember watching, I think it was 2011. Fans don't like it. I think Harvick passed Dale Jr. with like six to go, and I was sitting on my dad's pit box, and he was running for Baldwin at the time. And I remember watching that race. Our pit stall was like right off of turn four, and I remember watching the cars come off turn four, and that was the first time I like really understood and could watch them from the inside of the racetrack and really get a good picture of kind of how the cars looked and how they drove, and it just intrigued me as a kid. And yeah, so I think it was just a lot of relatability from what I was racing at the time. And I just loved how small the track was and you could see every little bit of the racetrack and you could walk around in the infield and go to different, parts of the track and see whatever you wanted to see. So, and it was just a close place. So that's kind of, I honestly named that as like my home track because I honestly grew up closer to Martinsville than I did to Charlotte, from High Point. And It's just yeah, it's one of those things that just grab you as a kid, and you have these memories, these core memories when you were growing up.